It is an undisputable fact that human beings are the most social of all animals. This aspect of being social beings is projected in every nature and aspect of our lives. Among the most complex things which human beings indulge themselves in, support is needed in a collaborative fashion. Language learning as we know it today requires a higher degree of cognitive abilities. We also know that learning a language all by oneself can be a very monotonous affair. Therefore, it is best done in a collaborative and cooperative method. We must also look into the very function of what language does, that is communication or interaction with the other human beings. Therefore, it cannot be done in isolation, which in turn brings back to our notions of collaboration and cooperation among human beings. What do you know about collaborative learning? This term has its roots in the works of the Russian scholar Lev Vygotsky. He spoke about the theory of social constructivism, according to which knowledge, the creation of knowledge, was a social phenomenon. It is something which is created and constructed collaboratively as an outcome of social human interactions. In the world, there are two kinds of people, the more knowledgeable ones and the less knowledgeable ones. The less knowledgeable learners or humans learn from the more knowledgeable human beings. This is what social constructivism is all about. Therefore, for Vygotsky, cooperation along with interaction leads to better learning outcomes. Choi in 2008 also points out that research suggests collaborative processes can result in better motivation, higher performance levels, and the development of the higher order thinking skills. Collaboration as we know it involves an immense amount of group work on the part of the learners. Learners need to team up together. This can happen either with help from the teacher or as a result of the proactive nature of the learners themselves. Unlike in the traditional classrooms, in collaborative and cooperative learning, learners need to take a greater number of decisions about their learning while in class. Therefore, they also need to become more responsible learners. They also need to be able to explore the task at hand to a greater detail. They need to learn to divide the responsibility amongst the members of the group. Group work is therefore very important. As we all know, when a group work is underway, some learners may take the onus of the responsibility on their own shoulders, whereas there might be a few learners who like to take a back seat. In case of collaborative learning, the work is equally divided. Everyone is a shareholder in the proceedings of the given task. Some examples of collaborative learning would involve a group of students discussing the outcomes of a lecture, or perhaps maybe when students from different schools or colleges interact with each other and work together on a certain topic. It therefore leads to the work done in a shared manner. Collaborative and cooperative work has lots of similarities. These include having small groups. The activities which are used need to be very structured and concise. Learners have to take individual responsibility, and The end of the task is marked by an assessment which describes how successful the collaborative learning process was. So, what do you think? Which skills can be developed by using collaboration in classrooms? Yes, the interpersonal skills, the understanding of the subject which is being taught, greater amount of participation, which in turn leads to better acquisition of the second language. These are a few of the benefits of collaborative and cooperative learning process in the ELT classrooms. A few things which the teacher needs to keep in mind while undertaking a collaborative work would be that students should be given the responsibility and the scope of undergoing a trial and error method. The first task will not be the best task. Collaborative learning also helps the learners in internalizing the language structures, also improving the vocabulary involved. The teacher needs to keep in mind that the activity which has been chosen needs to be within the learner's capacity. The groups into which the class is divided should be small in size, and most importantly, the task at hand has to be clearly defined with appropriate and adequate instructions provided by the teacher. Without this, a collaborative task will fall flat on its face. Now let us look at a few techniques for the teachers to follow. If you look at the screen, you will see that the groups should be small and allow teachers and learners to move freely and learners to participate actively. Teacher and learners exchange the roles. The learners become the teachers and the teachers become the learners. In effect, we have what we call a flipped classroom. The contribution of every learner is valued equally and they are respected for all their opinions equally. The tasks which are chosen are interesting but challenging at the same time. Diversity in the composition of the group is welcomed. Learners also learn the skills of resolving conflicts which might arise while a group work is underway. The goals of the tasks need to be clearly defined and detailed instructions need to be provided by the teacher. Teachers can also take recourse to resources such as the internet and other print material which might augment the interest level of the activity provided. Learners are responsible for their own learning and they reflect on their learning experience at the end of the collaborative task. In recent times, when one talks about collaborative and cooperative learning, an important aspect which comes to the forefront is online collaboration. The burning question today in ELT forums across the world is, will technology end up replacing the teacher? Well, that is for the future to answer. But the incorporation of online teaching methods has been given numerous names in the field of ELT. These include blended learning, CAL or computer assisted language learning, digital literacy and even 21st century skills. Online collaboration helps in numerous ways. One of the foremost among those is it helps to bridge the gap between the L1 and L2 speakers of the language to be learned. The existing literature also shows that if learners are allowed to engage in online collaborative environment, They are willing to work harder to help others overcome their difficulties, and overall the results achieved are much better than what was in an individual task. Now let us look into the reasons of why we need online collaboration in the ESL context today. The first is to promote active learning. In the traditional English language classroom, more often than not, the case was that the teacher was the one who imparted knowledge and the learners sat silently, taking in whatever the teacher has to say. But with the change in the teaching methodology and the incorporation of communicative methods of language teaching, coupled with the process of online collaboration, we have today a mixed classroom where sometimes the teacher is at the helm and at other times the learners come into the forefront in the teaching learning process. The learner is no longer a tabula rasa, but is the source of information based on which the class goes forward as well. The added benefit of collaborative learning in this case is that learners try to solve the small scale problems that may be encountered while learning before bringing it to the teacher's attention. This way, the learner's autonomy is also augmented. Another aspect where collaboration is useful is for improving the language skills. As we all know, language learning is divided into the 4 skills of listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Now let us see how online collaboration helps in listening. In case of listening, there is an active listener who has to pay attention to what the others are saying. While a listening task is underway, it is imperative that students remain conscious and focused on what is being said. In this way, the exposure to English language improves, thereby improving the listening skills. In a similar fashion, if we look at speaking, role plays can be used wherein students can work in small groups to perform a particular task. This leads to a holistic development in which both speaking and listening are taken care of. Moving on to the concept of reading skill development, in a classroom, we often have students who have different levels of language competency. In collaborative learning, the more better language learner can help out the weaker learner by reading and carrying out an explanation of the given text. This way, the advanced learner's understanding is improved, along with giving a better insight to the weaker learner who is more likely to learn better from a peer than from a teacher. Now, moving on to the last skill, that is writing. Writing tasks take place best in a collaborative manner. In a small group work, the teacher can divide the writing task into several parts. Some students may be made responsible for planning the writing task. A few others can be involved in actually executing the process of writing. The remaining members in the group will then be responsible for evaluating the written piece and bringing in changes wherever necessary. This three-pronged process can be taken forward by adding the scope of feedback from these learners. This way, the writing which finally emerges will definitely be a better and improved version of the first draft of the writing. In this way, we see how collaborative and cooperative learning techniques will help to improve all the 4 language skills. The next is collaborative learning helps to inculcate the sense of audience among learners. When in a group work, some students are presenting the work, the other students are expected to pay close attention to what is being said, since they will then be expected to provide feedback. This process of continuous engagement with what is being heard makes more patient listeners, thereby making better audience out of the learners present in class. Therefore, the classroom that promotes collaborative learning also increases the sense of responsibility among the learners, since their feedback will be taken into consideration to improve the activity which the teacher might have given to them. Collaborative learning, as we have been discussing so far, also leads to enhanced feedback and revision on part of the learners. While working on a particular task, learners have to take decisions and arrive at certain conclusions. It involves a lot of negotiation of thoughts, exchange of ideas, giving explanations and justifying one's opinion about a given task. Learners have to interact with each other until they arrive at a common decision. In this process, they also have to give feedback to each other for further improvement. In order to accommodate the others' suggestions, learners have to redo the work, revise it many times until the group approves of it. This habit enables them to visualize perfection in their performance. Another aspect where collaborative learning is useful is for developing the higher order thinking skills. For any learner to be independent, higher order thinking skills are essential. They enable the learners to question, to think, to solve and find reasons behind things. Collaborative classroom gives scopes to learner to improve their higher order thinking skills, as the learning is not teacher led, but the students have to take the effort for their own learning. Bloom in 1956 said that higher order thinking is a way to approach problem solving and to think critically. As discussed earlier in this module, the learners have to negotiate between the ideas, take decisions and choose the best of them all. In collaborative classrooms, they first try to find solution to the problems on their own with the help of their peers. In this process, they have to accept or reject ideas, accommodate others' opinions, give explanations for their decisions. Doing all these involves a greater amount of cognitive involvement. Therefore, collaborative classroom is the best platform for developing learners' higher order thinking skills. Collaboration also helps in developing the interacting ability of the learners. Interaction with peers while learning was considered a bad habit in the traditional English language classroom. However, in the recent teaching practices, especially in the language classrooms, it is welcomed and appreciated to a great extent. Collaborative ELT classroom by its nature requires a group of people to come together and take the responsibility of the task. One of the grounding principles of collaborative learning is that if many people share the responsibility of the work, they can do it more efficiently and better than an individual work. In collaborative classrooms, the learners get to interact more with each other. They interact in the target language, which gives them practice to use it in a more authentic and real context. Online collaboration also allows learners to interact a lot. They can use alternative mediums of interactions such as writing, chatting, voice messaging and video conferencing. Therefore, collaborative ELT classroom is the ideal place for the language learners to practice the target language. collaborative learning has a lot of benefits, teachers are yet to accept it wholeheartedly. A few of the issues which come forward will now be discussed. Problem 1. In collaborative classrooms, it becomes difficult to control students as they make a lot of noise and the learning process is hampered. Indeed, some teachers still believe that learners make noise in class. It means that no teaching and learning is taking place. It is true that the noise in the classroom hampers the learning process to an extent. However, if the noise is controlled and monitored, it can be used in a positive manner. In collaborative classrooms, learners need to move around, work in teams, communicate with others. In such cases, they will produce noise. If the teacher gives proper instructions to the learners about the task and the responsibility is assigned to each individual member of the group, the noise that is produced will be in favor of learning. The noise in collaborative classroom indicates the active learning process. Therefore, with proper instructions and monitoring, the classroom noise can be turned into an important learning experience for all the members involved. Another problem which teachers often talk about is that collaborative classrooms require more preparation on part of the teachers. Teachers believe to make changes in their teaching practice means extra workload, but in effect, there aren't many changes which teachers need to make. The material which is usually used in the normal regular classroom mode can be modified to suit the needs of the collaborative classroom. The teacher has to bring in more communicative aspects into the class by making use of the erstwhile material. They can use this already existing material and the changes will happen gradually. Although teachers feel that collaborative classrooms require extra preparatory time, there is another advantage to using this process. In the initial days, the teachers might have to spend extra time in giving clear instructions during the group work. But as students get a better understanding of the process of collaborative and cooperative learning and how to go about attempting a task during group work, the teacher has more class time freed during which she can provide more feedback to the learners. She can go round the class and clarify doubts which students might have. In that way, it will be providing an on-the-spot solutions and evaluation to the task which is being encountered by the learners. In this way, the classroom time required to prepare for collaborative learning can be adjusted across an entire semester or even an academic year. A third problem which teachers discuss in using collaboration in the classroom is that there are individual differences among learners. It is believed that in collaborative classrooms, learners have to take decisions and they are in charge of their own learning. It is also true that in collaborative classrooms, there would be mixed ability groups. In such cases, the fact of learners' individual differences cannot be negated. If the teachers encourage the learners to learn from each other and work as a team, this issue can be sorted successfully. A mixed ability group is always beneficial for the low proficiency learners. Another important issue that can be raised here is that in collaborating classrooms, the learners with high proficiency are held back. This might be correct to a certain extent, but high proficiency learners also learn better from peer tutoring. It eventually leads to better teamwork in classrooms. As discussed in the earlier modules, collaborative ELT classrooms can bring about positive changes in language learning. It offers scope for learner autonomy in the learning process. When the learners are involved in decision making, they feel responsible for their own learning. Learners develop an internal drive for learning, for trying out new things, and they do not feel afraid of failure as the responsibility is shared among the group. Peer evaluation and feedback are the things that make learners more active even when others are presenting their work. Learners learn from others' mistakes and accommodate others' feedback in their own learning process. Collaborative learning is therefore a perfect practice towards learner-centric classrooms in the ELT sphere. With this, we come to the end of the session today. Hope you all enjoyed it. Thank you.